So, in the Northern Hemisphere, you would have seen the heat waves, which have had such a huge impact. 1/3 of Pakistan, I'm serious, 1/3 of Pakistan is underwater because of the flooding there. In China, intense heat waves leading to rivers and lakes running dry. Meanwhile, in Europe, wildfires, heat waves as well. This all leads to the question, what do we need to do to protect our continent from climate change? Dr. Roland Ngam is the Program Manager for Climate Justice and Socio-Ecological Transformation at the Rosa Luxemburg Foundation, Southern Africa. Dr. Ngam, good afternoon to you. We keep seeing the impact of climate change in Europe and the Northern Hemisphere. The droughts, the famine in Somalia we've seen on our continent. Are we seeing climate change having an impact on Africa as well at the moment?
Good afternoon, Stephen, and to all the viewers. Yes, there is a lot of impact. This year in particular, we've had, for example, the floods in KwaZulu-Natal. We had tropical storms and tropical cyclones on the Mozambican Channel, which affected Zimbabwe, Malawi, of course. And obviously, we have the major drought issues that we've witnessed in the Horn of Africa, which has caused massive famine there. Also in the Sahel region. And we can't forget that southern Madagascar as well is still in the midst of a multi-year drought, which affected over 2 million people. And so the effects of climate change really can be seen everywhere on the continent.
What do we need to do to mitigate against it? The African Development Bank suggested, I think their president suggested this week, that to fight climate change, the answer was actual finance. He's talking about money to make sure that we can finance the projects that need to be implemented.
Well, according to the Egyptian COP presidency, over the next 10 years, we need about $1.3 trillion US for adaptation, as well as for loss and damage. Many African countries that are suffering the impacts of climate change at the moment really cannot fund the adaptation and also the mitigation needs that they have. And so it is up to the major countries that cause most of the pollution that we are witnessing really to send money to Africa for these projects. But unfortunately, some of the pledges that they made, they have not honored traditionally, and that is why we keep seeing very little being done at the moment, with most of the money for adaptation and mitigation actually coming from African governments.
If we get the money, how would we spend it? What would be the right way to spend it on our continent?
Well, there are a number of things that we can do. For example, change the way we build so that our houses stay cooler in the summer and warmer in the winter. Plant more trees. Change the way we farm, and also we need to have better mass transit systems in our cities. These are the things that cause us to use a lot of energy, and that is where most of our efforts should go. And also in countries like Mozambique, where 70% of the heating really comes from firewood. We need to get these countries to stop cutting trees for these purposes.
There are other issues that come as a result of all of this. So, for example, manufacturing produces a lot of carbon. We, of course, and you know where this conversation goes, we generate our electricity using coal. So do many other places in Africa, although we're by far the worst emitter. Do we need to spend a lot more money on issues like that, renewable energy, that sort of thing?
Well, yes, certainly. You're very right. Africa emits only 4% of all the CO2 that we have in the world every year. And so very quickly, we need to start with the energy poverty that we have. You heard President Macky Sall say in the footage there, Africa needs to develop, but the countries of the global north are not really helping Africa to do that. And unfortunately, some of these countries are going to start doing what the global north did, pollute now and clean up later. But then, in order to avoid that, South Africa and other countries need to be setting up renewable energy much faster than they are doing at the moment. And renewables are the way to go. They are much cheaper and they are much quicker to set up. We've already seen in South Africa that most of the renewable projects take less than 2 years to do. And so that is where the future really is.
For a long time, there's been a sort of debate around climate change. Do you think, I mean, that's been over scientifically for a long time, but do you think politically the world's leaders now get it? I mean, Europe has had the kind of weather it's not had before in, hundreds of thousands of years. Do you think its leaders get it, and yet they didn't come to the summit this week?
Well, I think they really do get it, and for those who have not been getting it, they are getting it right now. Starting from last year, we've had really catastrophic weather, which has caused massive chaos all over the world, from California all the way to China, load shedding in China, in Australia, rationing and conservation in France, in Germany. California today talking about the system collapsing. And so all those who have been saying that climate change is something for the future have seen it already right now. In South Africa, for example, you heard the finance minister say that he didn't used to believe in climate change, but when he saw the over 50 billion rand worth of damage in KwaZulu-Natal, suddenly his eyes opened to the reality that climate change is already here. And so a lot has to be done to start rolling back some of these effects. Pakistan, like you said, a third of the country, of the entire country underwater, something that has never happened before. And all these impacts really happening in a post-COVID environment is causing many leaders to sit up, but then the kind of finance that should go with that sitting up is not really there.
Dr. Roland Ngam, thanks so much. Program Manager for Climate Justice and Socio-Ecological Transformation at the Rosa Luxemburg Foundation.